Welcome back. Today's video is about all the stuff we've been doing to the car the last couple of weeks. This is Project Piece of Stang, his 1982 Mustang GT. This video doesn't have any hard driving or anything fun. There's no engine building, there's no transmission building. This was replacing worn out or missing suspension bushings, bleeding brakes, brake jobs, some basic car cleanup, some things like that. It's distributor. We had to get a new distributor. We had some issues with the car. We do a little bit of street driving, a little test and tune, had some issues and fixed them, and then some quality of life issues we had to fix with the car as we just get it ready to be closer and closer to being daily driven. Well, not daily, but at least daily ready. A parts getter, a runaround, things like that. We're about 95% of the way there. Some of the brake parts I need are special order, so I couldn't just pick them up and get it done this weekend. But it's functioning, it's driving. I think it's ready to start cruising around. We will have some other stuff, but we probably won't videotape it. We're gonna do a full brake replacement, master cylinder, calipers, rotors, pads. But the rotors and the calipers are special order, so they didn't have any nearby. So we probably won't make a video of that, but we'll get that done here soon. Right now the brakes are working. They're just not working amazingly well. They probably never will because it's a 41-year-old brake system. But we're going to get it working up to at least 1982 standards. But thanks for watching our video and enjoy. This is today's project. We went to test drive the car the other day and it was running fairly well, but when we were driving it down the road, it was kind of starting to sway and getting kind of squirrely. Then we tried to come to a stop. It was knocking. We pulled up to our neighbor's house and they said they thought our tie rod ends or our ball joints were out. As you can see here, the tire physically moves without the car moving. You can hear that knocking. That is actually our control arm bushings on our aftermarket tubular K member. The bushings are completely gone, completely destroyed. So we've got some aftermarket bushings we're going to install today. Oh, here we go. This is what is left of our bushings. I contacted multiple aftermarket companies trying to identify this aftermarket tubular cross member and couldn't do it. No one claimed it, but Energy Suspension took the measurements for everything and sent me some shackle bushings off an old Jeep YJ. We're going to see if we can get those things to fit in here. See if we can get this thing going back down the road straight. You can see how much this thing moves and sways. It was 10 times worse when we were going down the road. So that is today's little slice of hell. Oh, and changing brake bleeders. That was a lot of fun. Here you can see our jacked up suspension where the bushings are supposed to be and how much play we have everywhere. All the bushings are just gone. So we finally got the front spindle mostly disassembled, and we're going to try to get these bolts out and try to pull this thing apart, see if we can get new bushings in it. Well, we had to remove the steering rack, or loosen it at least. And there's a lot of cussing and a lot of hitting things with hammers, but we finally got the A-arm off, the control arm. So now we're gonna try to figure out how to fit these new bushings on here. And here are some of the suspension parts that we removed that need cleaned. Here in our parts cleaning sink, aka the kitchen sink. Believe it or not, those are actually Energy Suspension brand bushings on the sway bar and the tie rods, everything in here is name brand quality stuff. It's just filthy and disgusting, so I'm going to clean it up. And it looks like our new bushings are going to fit. I test fitted one, but now I need to clean the rods that go in them. Here you see our ghetto press that we had to do. The first set of bushings on the driver's side went on pretty easy. We just kind of squeezed them together and they popped on. I don't know what's going on this side. I don't know if there's slight machining differences, but this has taken over an hour, maybe more. I've kind of lost track of time. But we do have this mostly pressed on now. We're about ready to put the control arm back on the car. It is day 2. We ran out of time and daylight yesterday to work on this. It was not going to plan. For whatever reason, we could not get this piece in. So we came back, started fresh today. We've just finished installing the thing. A lot more screaming, a lot more cussing, a lot more hitting things with a hammer. And it's in. And it's tight. We've got to grease it some more, but it's in. And we have no more front to back or side to side play or anything. So I think this side is street ready. Side number 1 is done. We're moving on to side number 2, and this is the passenger side. This is the one that, believe it or not, is even worse. Both ends of this are just completely gone. All 4 bushings just disintegrated and gone. This is what we were hearing when we were driving. After struggling by hand for hours yesterday to get these bushings pressed in using a vice grip, which is almost impossible, we came up with a better plan today. Let's go, buddy. And we're just gonna put this in using the impact wrench now. We are done. We finally got it all back together. We didn't video much because we were exhausted and it was brutal and hot and frustrating, but the tires don't move anymore. The tires are all pretty stiff. The suspension is extremely stiff, and we're going to go test drive it. Junior discovered we have a horn. All right. It's kind of weak and pathetic, but yeah, we'll get a more manly one here soon. We'll have to get a manly horn soon. I'll edit it down. All right, we're starting small in the neighborhood, and it's already better. It's not clacking and knocking. Well, at least not the front suspension. It's already stiffer. It already turns better. The alignment's out a little bit, but it's still doing pretty well. It's going where I tell it to go. Oh my God, we have a low fuel light that works. The low fuel light just popped on. It just started flashing for like a split second when we did that. You can turn it off now. A little more, give it some gas. Give it gas. Give it some more gas. Shit, I hope that's a rocker. Oh, that just started a second ago. I hope that's a rocker. A little more, give it some gas. I'm not sure if that's a rocker, but that's a rod knock. Oh my God. We were driving and had a catastrophic failure in the brakes. We don't know what happened, but the brakes suddenly just went out completely, hit the floor. And then at the same time, we developed an engine knock. It's more like a small tick now. Give it some gas. A little more. Actually seems like it's calmed down now, but uh-oh. We blew something in the front intake. We got oil coming out of the front intake around the distributor. Oof, that's not good. That horrible ticking we had has calmed down a little. It definitely sounds like it's coming from this valve cover. But unfortunately we have some blow-by because this breather cap is dumping a ton of oil in the headers over here. I'm not sure what's up with that. And the front and the back of the intake are leaking. The tapping on the driver's side of the engine got a little quieter, then a little louder, then a little quieter. I'm hoping it's just an unadjusted loose rocker. I'm hoping nothing in the rods or the pistons or anything. The tapping on the driver's side of the engine got a little quieter, then a little louder, then a little quieter. I'm hoping it's just an unadjusted loose rocker. After the issues yesterday, Junior and I are taking off the top half of the engine, checking rockers. I know we have an intake leak front and back, so we're going to replace the intake gaskets, try to patch up the front and back of the intake. We're just checking it for overall health. There's no oil in the radiator. I don't see any fluids, and the water's not really milky, or the oil is not milky or anything. So there is a ton of oil dumped up here. So we're doing some preventative maintenance. We're still not sure what that knocking was yesterday. I think maybe it was just a rocker that ran dry and has now been re-oiled and stopped chattering. Looks like there's a chance that I just didn't make a big enough bead of gasket seal around the front and the back of the intake. There's actually a missing spot there. I don't know where that went. It is not on the intake. So that was clearly dripping a lot out of that hole. The front just looks like I didn't put enough. There's oil inside the gasket seal beads. So I just failed to seal the engine properly. Time to redo it. Good news, we got some lifters. Some roller rockers that backed out. That one has got up and down play. These two definitely have up and down play. Way too much. So that is a good thing. We can just tighten those down, reset them, and we ought to be good to go. We got everything back together and it sounds good, except it sounds now like there's a rattling sound coming from this side. It sounds like a rocker. I checked the rockers earlier, but I'm going to pull this valve cover and check them again just to make sure it's not a lifter or a rocker. I'd rather it be a lifter or a rocker than a rod bearing. Stopped backfiring through the carburetor, but now it's hesitating off idle. That's me stabbing the throttle. This is what was causing the fireball a few minutes ago. It'll rev normally with a little throttle. The moment you stab it, it tries to die. And it died. So Junior and I were test driving the car, cruising it around. It suddenly lurched, and the RPM shot up about 3,000 RPMs higher than they were. The car took off on us. Unfortunately, it didn't have enough brake to really stop it. I had to put it in neutral. I thought the throttle was stuck. I pulled the throttle up with my foot. It would not stop. It was just revving and revving. We had to just cruise it home, trying to kind of transmission and engine brake it. And then we coasted home and got it stopped. And it's idling at 3,000 RPM plus. We're not sure what's wrong with it. I can't find a vacuum leak or anything. So we're going to move on, try to check the distributor and see what else is wrong with it. Alright, an update on the engine. We managed to get the front and the back of the intake to stop leaking. We have driven it. It is not leaking anymore. Everything's nice and dry and clean. I fixed the issue with the breather. So there was no baffle underneath the intake neck there attached to the breather cap. So the oil was just splashing straight up into it. I put this piece of pipe in here. I also screwed in some homemade baffles into each side. The PVC valve is no longer pulling as much oil into the catch can. This thing isn't splashing oil up. Everything seems to be running really well. An update on the fireball situation. The distributor was broken. I finally just pulled the distributor to check it, and there was a piece broken off in it. So the vacuum canister wasn't working. It was just pulling like 40 degrees of timing all the time. We have a brand new distributor, thanks to O'Reilly's. They warranted this distributor, and it's running beautifully now. So everything's just living in harmony and doing amazingly well. Well, everything right here anyway. This is doing really well right now. No off-idle stumble and no fireballs. Able to just stab the throttle and it responds instantly. Now we're going to tackle the brakes. We've got a new brake booster and a new master cylinder ready to go in. This stuff appears to be the factory 1982 stuff. There's our new brake booster. And there's the boy taking out the seat so we can get in under the dash to the brake booster. Doing a pretty poor job of taking the seat off. Harder, the boy. Try harder. Here's our seat out of the car. Junior is able to get it out. And now I've got to crawl up under the dashboard and pull the brake booster bolts out from up there. Well, before I can take off the brake booster, I forgot a step. I had to take the nuts off the brake proportioning valve. Under here we had to pull the tire off because that bolt's down here. Here's Junior taking off the master cylinder. Proportioning valve bolts underneath it. Once it's loose, then we'll start taking off the brake booster under the dash. Alright, we finally wrestled the old brake booster out. And here are the two units next to each other. This is obviously the old one. You can see it's extremely rusted and corroded. And it does not really move at all. It's completely locked up and frozen. It is scrap. This one, on the other hand, actually moves. I was able to plunge it by hand a little while ago. So we're going to start the process of putting it back. Well, there's the new unit wrestled into place. It wasn't fun. Junior is in the car right now, putting the nuts on the back of the booster since he's got much smaller hands than I do. Can reach it easier. And as soon as it's attached to the brake pedal, we'll reattach the master cylinder. We are going to replace the master cylinder. As you can tell, this is pretty old. However, we're going to see if it was just the brake booster or whether the master cylinder needs replacing or not. We're going to hook up the brake booster and test it and see if the brakes are improved and working properly. And if they are, great. If they aren't, we also have a master cylinder sitting here. Here's the new brake booster all installed. Like I said, we did not change out the master cylinder yet. I may do that tomorrow, but we're just testing to see if the brake booster was bad. It appears it was. Here's Junior putting the seat back in so we can actually go drive this thing and test it. The brakes already feel slightly better, but not a whole lot better. So it may need the master cylinder no matter what, but we're going to go see if there's an improvement at least. The brakes feel a little better at idle, not a whole lot. They have a little more travel. We're going to go test drive it and see what happens. Alright, well, they are working. I wouldn't say they're great, but they are working. Forward up front. Okay. It's not perfect, especially for a 41-year-old brake system, but it is stopping us. It is stopping us more efficiently than it was. We do not have anti-lock brakes, by the way. Stop recording. So we're on a decent incline right now, and the brake, we're rolling, we're stopping, we're rolling, we're stopping. The foot brake is holding us in place with virtually no pressure. So they are working, but it's not working well by modern standards. So the first brake test didn't go horribly, except we ran it out of gas. We actually got stranded about half a mile from home, and then we had to wait for the fuel pump to manually fill the carburetor bowls with enough fuel we could start it up, and then we pretty much just coasted home. But it is officially out of gas. We're going to try to gas it up now with a couple of gallons. Then we're going to try to take it to a gas station to actually gas it up and go on a real test drive. We finally got some gas in it. Time for brake test round 2. Alright, so far so good. Now that we have gasoline in the engine, the brakes are working. We got one rotor kind of grinding a little. The pad and the rotor may not be great on that one, but we're going to go take it out of the neighborhood for an actual test drive. This test drive is not about speed and horsepower for once, for some reason. Just about drivability. Alright, you can turn it off. Alright, wish us luck. We're going down the big hill in my neighborhood. Alright, the brakes are working. We've got one caliper, it's kind of dragging a little. It's kind of holding things back. It's not really wanting to do its job, but we are stopped. They seem to work fine on the flat. They're not enjoying this huge hill we're on.
Okay.
This is officially the farthest we've come from home. So far so good. It is stopping us. It's not great. We definitely need new calipers and new pads, but it's driving. We're going down the road and we can stop somewhat. We've officially made it further than we've ever made it. We are getting our first tank of gas in the Mustang. Well, since the day we got it and filled it up. This is the farthest we've been from home. And yes, it is running while we gas up. I don't want to hear it. We're afraid to turn it off. Sue me. We're making our first pilgrimage to O'Reilly's. People at the local O'Reilly's know us very well. I'm pretty sure I finance their vacations. This is the Mustang's first trip to the O'Reilly's. First trip to O'Reilly's. First of many, many thousands of trips here. Turn it off. Alright, successful test drive. lost a brake light somewhere along the way. This is how things are going. First inaugural cruise was successful. We made it down, gassed up, made it to O'Reilly's, got stopped by the sheriff's office for a brake light. The brake lights worked a week ago. I guess we got to re-safety check everything. But did you have fun, Chris? This is our latest issue. We got stopped by the sheriff's office because we have an entire side of the taillights and the brakes are dead. All right, let off the brake and turn on the headlights. So the taillights are working. All right, the taillights on this side are working. Turn them off. Yeah. So let off the brake. All right, turn the headlights on and then hit the brake. Let off the brake. Okay, so it's just the brake. The lights have power, it's just the brake. That must be something I did underneath the dashboard. Great. So we came back here, we're tracking down the wiring, trying to figure out what's wrong. The tail lights work, the brake lights don't work. We finally tracked it down to one wire that appears to be dead all the way back. It's this red and white wire. We tracked it all the way under this harness, and we're pulling the seat right now because it disappears into a harness up in the dash. I'm assuming it's connected to the brake switch because we just did the brake booster the other day. I'm guessing I pulled the brake light wire loose. We're about to find out. We'll remove the seat, see what we can find. We are back dealing with our wiring hell under here. So I did absolutely nothing except hit the blinker stem earlier, and now the tail lights are just stuck on. The brake lights aren't working. The tail lights are just in the on position. But I replaced a fuse that I found blown, hoping that would fix it. It did not help the brakes or the tail lamps, but it did help our display. Our low fuel and our brake lamp are out. And that is correct. That is our brake lamp that wasn't working. And our fuel gauge says we have low fuel. So that's very interesting. Still no clue why the blinker stem turns on and off the tail lights, but the brake lights aren't working at all. So much fun. So we made a discovery. The tail lights weren't stuck in the on position. We changed out that fuse and both brake lights started working. The brake lights were stuck in the on position. Hit the brakes. The brake lights are working. Now let off the brakes. Pull the pedal all the way up. The brake light switch is sticking. Now turn on the tail lights. Now hit the brakes. Now let off. Pull it up. Turn on. Try the blinker real quick. Pull the stem.
Okay. The blinker's on. Is that doing anything?
No, it's not doing anything. All right, turn the headlights off. Now try the blinker. No. Okay, so the blinkers are still fried. All right, well, we've made some progress. A very minor little thing, but we got some new windshield wipers. The old ones were melted onto the windshield and rusted. They didn't work at all. They just went right through the water and left the water where it was. So we've got brand new windshield wipers, and they work amazingly well. It may not look like it, but we cleaned out the trunk and the back seat, cleaned up the car in general. We reinstalled some trim pieces in the trunk. We actually cleaned all this out, but we're storing all our spare and extra stuff back here. But we did clean it out. We vacuumed it. We cleaned out the spare tire well, which we found has a spare tire we can't use. This is a 5-lug spare tire off of something else. Completely useless to us and our 4 lugs. So that's what we did. We did little things like we installed the glove box door. New glove box door, new driver's side sun visor. Just little things to make the car a little more bearable today. And then I replumbed the fuel pressure regulator. The diaphragm in it was busted. We weren't getting fuel pressure. Now I've got a steady 3 psi, 4 psi if I want it. And that's exactly what we need. So that's pretty much it. We were going to do some more brake stuff, but the brake parts are special order. So I think that's going to be it for this video. This is our miscellaneous stuff. I'm going to redo the entire brakes at some point in the future. Master cylinder, calipers, new rotors, new pads, bleed the system and all that. But I'm going to wait till I have all the parts, do it all at one time. For now, other than some slightly sloppy brakes, this thing is ready for the street. It's ready to cruise. You happy, Chris? You like it? You having fun?
Yeah.
All right. That's it. Thanks for watching.